You know the feeling of a technically perfect day. Your inbox is empty, your dashboards are perfectly managed, and your task list has been moved entirely from left to right. But when you sit down to draft a strategy or an original proposal, nothing comes. Not a failure of effort, just a failure of insight. You find yourself writing sentences you have already thought 1,000 times before. The instinctual response is to force inspiration through higher volume. You consume more podcasts, more books, and more frameworks, hoping that more information will eventually spark an idea. This relentless drive for input is a specific form of cognitive depletion that effectively masquerades as productivity. The brain reaches a physiological limit when it is never allowed to be alone. Clinical research describes this as cognitive load maintenance. Constant input forces the brain to continuously pattern match against what it already knows, just to keep pace with the stream. This keeps you trapped in shallow, reactive processing, while discovery requires the brain to integrate new data into deep memory. Your mental engine is running fast and hot while producing zero forward output. By optimizing every minute for continuous processing, we are structurally destroying the brain's capacity for original generation. For most of neuroscience's history, the default mode network, or DMN, was treated as noise. Researchers assumed these regions were merely idling between meaningful tasks. We now know that DMN supports our most sophisticated cognitive functions: cross-domain integration, scenario modeling, and the metacognition required for strategic judgment. These two brain networks balance on a neurological seesaw. They are strictly anti-correlated. As focus switches on, the default mode goes dark. Every notification or open tab forces the task-positive network to stay on, locking the seesaw and flatlining the DMN. The brain cannot distinguish between the directed attention required for a trivial email and the focus needed for deep work. It simply sees a demand for resources. Constant directed focus carries a biological price: the complete physiological suppression of breakthrough insight. Charles Darwin maintained a daily habit called the sand walk. He walked a gravel path for hours, alone, without notes or a structured agenda. This is the title page of Origin of Species, a work that emerged from this undirected cognitive process. Darwin used the repetitive motion of his walks to hold massive biological problems without actively directing his attention at them. Modern high performers use similar structures. Bill Gates maintained biannual Think Weeks, isolated retreats with no internet or staff that produced Microsoft's most consequential architectural shifts. These historical figures deliberately protected their cognitive voids. But today, mobile connectivity has completely eradicated the enforced idle time that once allowed our brains to process in the background. These figures were engineering the neurological conditions required for deep, durable thought. The popular practice of deep work is often seen as the solution, but concentrated effort is a different cognitive state entirely from original thinking. Deep work fills the space with intense, directed attention. This engages the task-positive network and keeps the DMN suppressed. When one senior product manager stripped away her constant input streams for 30 days, she initially experienced a low-grade anxiety, a withdrawal symptom from the lack of constant stimulation. Deep work serves to execute a known solution. Identifying the right problem to solve in the first place requires protecting space from attention entirely. Rehabilitation requires two specific steps: the untethered walk, 20 minutes outside with no devices, and the one-tab rule to eliminate the cognitive drain of task switching. This digital calendar layout illustrates the scheduled nothing protocol. It requires blocking out 30 minutes with zero agenda and treating it with the same gravity as a vital client meeting. After an initial period of discomfort, the DMN begins to adapt. High-level pattern recognition begins to arrive unsummoned because the brain finally has the resources to process what it knows. This silence allows the brain to connect seemingly unrelated variables, a capacity that algorithmic tools cannot replicate. As execution and processing become automated by default, the willingness to sit in unmediated silence becomes a distinct professional asset.